13th of February, Rabbi Furst, Pierke Avos.
Good morning, Rabbi Furst.
Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi Umari.
Good morning. Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, Rory.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hey, how's
Good
everyone? Rosh, Shabbat Tov. Okay, good morning to everyone and good luck. This is Rabbi Shlomo First here. You see with Samanavshi here at Shlaim Care of Zoom, our first year, learning Pirkei Avos. In line with Rabbi Akiva, we're learning about Tzelem Elokim. Let me put the document that we should be finishing this document today, and we'll do the last two paragraphs, and then hopefully by tomorrow we'll have a new document. In the meantime, let me put it on the screen for us here. Magen Avos Rashba. Right, okay. 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 Let's see. We have done the last two paragraphs. You have the large second to the last paragraph, the Magen Avos Rashbat Al Avos Perek Gimel Mishnah Yudal. We've done most of this before. But as we left off last week, there was a question about he explained about the Etzva Elokim, his own Mahalech. I tell you what, maybe just to get a running start to see what the Rashbatz is explaining. Again, we're trying to understand why Adam is called who was Nivra B'Tselem Elokim, and what does it mean B'Tselem Elokim? Take a look here. The second line in that paragraph, Magen Avos L'Rashbatz, Nikra Mipnei Zet Tzelem Elokim, and it brings down the pasuk in Bereshis. Let's just go through this quickly. It basically brings down 4 or 5 examples to make the point of what he's trying to explain, what the grammatic inference and the indications, what the Torah is trying to teach us from using that word Tzelem Elokim in reference to the creation of man. So if you see that second paragraph, we're in the middle, toward the middle of the second paragraph from the bottom, in the second line there, in the middle, it's Nikra B'Bnei Zet Tzelem Elokim. Adam was called Tzelem Elokim. Why? As he said, Lefi Sheish Das Lahakir as Boira Yosemam. Since Adam was given a das, understanding, Hakir, to recognize his Boira, to realize his his creator's existence more than anything else created. Therefore, he's called Tzelem Elokim. Mipnei Zet Tzelem Elokim, and that's the pasuk in Bereshis. He who nivchar meshubach mikolat slomim, because he is the nivchar, the most choice and the most praiseworthy of all the forms that were created during Ma'aseh Bereshis. Okay, who would like to read? We'll pick up here. This is again a review.
I will.
Okay, go ahead.
And it's like a man that has a beloved vessel, or a special vessel. Yomar Zeh Hu Kli Shali, and he says, "This is my vessel." Klomar, as to say, Ha Nechmad Shebechol Hakelim Sheyesh Lo. it's beloved more than all of the utensils that he has. V'chein nikra ha'ish ha'nichbad mikol ha'anashim. And similarly, or therefore, he calls man the most noble of all of the people.
He calls he calls the man. This is a reference to Moshe Rabbeinu. He calls the man who was the most noble of all people. He's called Ish Elokim.
Ish Elokim. Okay, so Moshe is called Ish Elokim. V'chein Beis Elokim. And similarly with Beis Elokim, excuse me, referring to the Beis HaMikdash, it's called Beis Elokim, mipnei shehu nichbad kol habatim lekibul hatefila, because it is more noble than all of the houses, because it is the place where Hashem receives tefillah, prayer. V'chein nikra Har Sinai, and similarly, Har Sinai is called Har HaElokim, the mountain of God. Mipnei shehu ha-nichbad shebechol ha-harim legilui, that it is more noble than all of the mountains, because that was where the Shekhinah was revealed. V'nikra mata Moshe.
About cereal.
What?
Go ahead, Luke. Go ahead, Luke.
And it's called, and they called Moshe. What is mata?
No, mata, the staff. That's the staff. The staff that Moshe used. That was by the Yam Suf. He was told to raise his staff over the waters, and in Mitzrayim he was supposed to hit the ground with the staff. He used the staff and many times to be the catalyst for the beginning of the Makkas, or of the splitting of the sea. Right. So the Mata Moshe, and it did all these. It was a staff that was very unique and specialized in what it did. So it was called the Mata Elokim.
The staff of God.
Yes.
Lefi she'nir'eh bo ma'aseh Elokim b'nasim shena'aso bo, because that we see it with it, the actions of God in the miracles that were done with it. V'nikra etzba Elokim, and it is called what's etzba?
That was the finger of now this was raised. We raised this point on the last year. This reference, I checked. This reference, Shmos Ches Tezvav, is a reference to, as we spoke about, the reference of the Khartoumim, the sorcerers of Pharaoh, making reference to the Kinim, that this was a plague which was clearly Etz Pelokim, a plague which clearly came from a Kadosh Baruch Hu, right? Without any doubt that it could have been done through sorcery. So he called it, the Khartoumim called it the Etz Pelokim. That's the pasuk in Shmos Ches Tezvav. But I think I'll tell you the truth, I think it's a mistake, because from what he explains later on, the next words, Akli shenichrasoi bo divros haluchos, the kli, the instrument that was used to engrave the dibros, the Saras dibros, the 10 utterances into the luchos, that is not what's being referred to in Shmos Ches Tes Vav. If you want to make correction, it's mentioned twice. It's mentioned in Shmos Lamed Aleph Pasuk Yud Ches, which, if not mistaken, might even be this week's parsha. Let me check. It might be this week's parsha. But, Lamed Ches Yud Ches.
I'm glad to hear you're making this correction, because I was going to say, why would we base a principle on a statement that was revealed by the Khartoumim? It's much better to hear that it's revealed by Hashem himself.
Right. That's a conceptual. That would be a conceptual problem. Correct. So yeah, Lamed Aleph, Pasuk Yud Ches.
Yud Ches or Yud Tes?
Yud Ches. Chapter 31, Pasuk 18. That happens to be this week's parsha. Right. So
Mhm.
and it's also referenced in another pasuk in Sefer Devarim in chapter 10, chapter 9,
Wait,
pasuk Yud.
could you repeat where it is in Lamed Aleph?
Lamed Aleph, Yud Chet, 18.
Yud Chet?
Yeah.
Okay, so Lefi she nir'eh bo ma'ano, he said that already. Hakeli she nechresu bo hadivarim hadibrot beluchos. The instrument by which was he engraved the statements on the tablets. Lefi shehu hanichbad shebechol hakelim hanivraim, and because it is the choicest of all of the instruments that have been created.
Right. So this is something which I don't know. We'll go into it. It's a whole subtopic to discuss the engraving of the luchos and how that was done and what that was accomplished with, and why why it's referenced in the Torah to using the words etzpel or kim. Like I said, that's a whole subtopic to discuss. But we won't go into that right now.
V'chein nikra ha'adam tzelem Elokim, and similarly, man is called image of God. Lefi shehu hanichbad shebechol hanivraim hatichasonim b'demus uvavina, because he is the choicest of all of the creations, hatachtonim. I don't know what is hatachtonim.
Below the top from takas is below tachtonim. All the creations that were created in this lower world.
I'm sorry, all of the what?
All those things created in this lower world, all the lower creations, the creations that were created in this lower world.
Oh, lower. In the likeness, what is this? Uvavina.
Okay, Bina Bahaskiel. Bina is a comprehension.
Ah,
Our ability to comprehend, there's nothing that approximates Adam's ability to comprehend things, right? There's no creature that's been created that approaches the ability of humans to comprehend, and specifically to comprehend the Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's why we've been given our intelligence. The whole purpose of our intelligence is to comprehend the Kadosh Baruch Hu.
But what about the Malachim? The Malachim don't they have a greater awareness of Hashem than we do?
It's awareness, but they're not using their comprehension. It's simply that they're sensitized to, they're in the presence of a Kadosh Baruch, so to speak, constantly. So they don't have any physical barriers between them and a Kadosh Baruch. So therefore they have a clearer sense of a Kadosh Baruch Hu than we do. But we have a physical barrier between us and a Kadosh Baruch Hu, so we don't have the ability to sense it in a direct way. So we have to use our intellect. That's why Kadosh Baruch Hu gave us our intellect, our understanding, our comprehension, so we should be able to understand the reality of a Kadosh Baruch Hu without having a actual sense of being in the presence of a Kadosh Baruch Hu.
Good. Okay, I got it. Also wanted to ask, what is what by the Khatumim, the Egyptians that couldn't make the little lice? What's the significance of that? I missed that part.
So Rashi explains there in Chumash, since it was two. There's certain sorcery. Sorcery, you should know, has certain rules to it. You can't violate the rules of sorcery if you want to.
No, I understand that part, that they could not do it.
Right.
So but what was, but I thought the Rebbe said you were unhappy with bringing the Khatumim into the discussion or something.
No, yeah, okay, because this pasuk, if this pasuk that's referenced, Shmos Chaf Tes Vav, right? That's the pasuk which refers to the Khartoumim's statement that this is the kinim is the Etzbe Elokim, okay? But that's not what the Rashbats is explaining here. He's explaining the pasuk, which is rather in our this week's parsha, because that's talking about the kli shenichrasoy bo dibros beluchos. The luchos were engraved by some instrument which was referred to the Etzbe Elokim. What that's a whole subtopic which maybe we could go into. We'll see, since it's also relevant to this week's parsha. Maybe we will, but that simply is, in my opinion, is a mistake. Someone tried to reference these, did us a favor and tried to put in the psukim that these references were made to, but I think they made a mistake in referencing Shmos Ches Tes Vav, and it should be rather the Shmos Lamed Aleph Yud Chet, and also Devarim. It was Devarim in chapter Tet and pasuk Yud.
Okay. So your problem was with the person who did the referencing for the footnotes.
I think so. I think I'd rather than make a whole tzimis out of it and make a whole Torah, which I'm not sure if it's worthy making it. I would just rather go to the simple approach that it was probably just a mistake.
I hear.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so this is what we have to discuss now. So he says this last statement became Adam Selam Elokim lefi shenichbad mikol hanivroim atachtonim. Since Adam is the most exquisite and significant of all those creatures that were created in this lower world, bidemus uvevina, in demus. Now demus apparently would mean appearance, but we know that's impossible. We're going to see in a moment that's impossible to say. Buvina, okay, in understanding, so there's some type of a meaning it could be, well, let's put it this way. You could say demus is also understanding it's not a demus that we're doima. See, some would prefer to explain demus, we're somewhat similar to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. So to say that in physical terms, that's completely impossible. And to say in even intellectual terms, that's also not so easy. It's easier, but not so easy. But so we could say that he's simply saying that Adam is referred to Tzelem Elokim Shu Nichbad Mikol and Nivroim, that Adam is called the Tzelem Elokim because he is the most superior and significant of all those creations here in this lower world. Vidimus, in his form, in the form, Adam's actual form is the most superior in all ways to all other creatures, and Bivina, and his comprehension is greater and more superior and more significant than any other creatures that we created. So that if we say that pshat, that avoids any question about trying to understand that it's referring to a demus in some way, which is impossible to liken it to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, because Hashem has no demus. There is no actual physical component to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. So we can't be medoimet to that because we're physical, Hashem's spiritual. So there's no comparison between the two.
But that raises a question in my mind, because demus is the physical appearance of a human.
Right.
What does that have to do with anything? We're not talking about physical appearance. We're not saying that man is superior to animals because he looks better.
No, but the fact that we are created in the way we are, our physical form is more superior to any other creature. We don't have to be the biggest, like the great whales in the ocean. We don't have to be as big as them, and we don't have to be able to fly as fast as an eagle, and we don't have to be as fierce as a lion or bold as a leopard, right? We have to do those things. As a matter of fact, the Ramban explains in his Parish and Chumash that actually Adam was created with aspects of all physical forms that were created before him.
That's why he could name them, right? In other words, he was given the job of giving names to all the creatures.
Right.
So he had some kind of awareness to be able to do that.
Right.
He saw the essence of every animal. So that must have been some ability that Hashem gave him to recognize that.
Right. I mean that's an interesting shot. Meaning, since according to the Ramban, we were created with all the components of everything else that was created before us previously, so that gave him the ability, because associated to that component which existed within himself, he could that'll give him the ability to relate clearly enough to give names to everything else that was created. Could be. I hear. That's a nice svara. That's an interesting svara. Right here. Could be. But so it's again, we don't have to be the largest or the quickest or the fiercest or the strongest to be the moose Elokim, meaning just like going back to the muscle, the person who has a special implement, right? A special implement. And I once met a fellow, and young fellow, and he was, the fellow does handyman work, So I had him coming to do some work in the house. So he was so happy that day. He had just bought himself a Dremel tool, right? A Dremel tool. If you know anything about a Dremel tool, it's like a little motor. It's a little handheld motor, and you can buy it with 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 500, 700, 1,000 different attachments, right? right? So this person was so happy. He just got his Dremel tool, right? And he was the only thing he wanted to do was try it out and try and do all kinds of different things using this Dremel tool. And I'm sure of all the different tools he had in his repertoire of tools, this was his favorite of all his tools. So likewise, the Dremel tool doesn't have to be the biggest tool, doesn't have to be like his jackhammer, right? Nor does it have to be the most the strongest. Doesn't have to be like his 20-pound mallet, right? But it's special because it has special abilities. And doesn't have to be the most of this, the best of this, or the best of that. But everything taken together, right, it has the favor that it's gained in his eyes because of the various different aspects of what it can do. So likewise, Autumn, since we don't have to run as fast as the deer, and we don't have to fly as high as the eagle, but what we do with what we've been given, right, that makes the difference between us and all the other creations that Hakadosh Baruch Hu created during the Ma'aseh Bereshis.
But I mean, it's a good example because it's not the most beautiful tool. It's the most useful. It's the most functional. But you wouldn't say it's the most beautiful.
Right? Doesn't have to be the most beautiful, right? I mean, like it could be even there. All different kinds of animals have different advantages. Some animals are more agile than us. They could even be more graceful than us. I'm not sure a person walking, that's the most graceful thing in the world that ever walked in the but we have our overall advantages over everything else.
And Demus refers to those advantages in general, not something physical.
I know. I think I'm saying. I think the Musa. I mean, you could even say it's in his physical form. Meaning he's the most superior of everything in his physical form, right? It's not that there's a demus of Hashem has v'shalom, because you can't say that there's a demus. There's a physical correspondence to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, right? The best thing you can try and say, as we discussed, is the tselem, right? The tselem is like a shadow, right? So the shadow, right? It's like a reverse relationship. Like when you have a shadow, as I said, of the hand, right? So the hand is what's physical, and the shadow is there's no physicality to the shadow, right? Unless, like I said, maybe there's some way of understanding the existence of a shadow in terms of photons or something like that. I have no idea.
Well, that's right. The demus.
But that's the demus, exactly. That's the demus. So
it only resembles. In other words, if you hold like Rebbe said, if you hold your hand out and you see the shadow of your hand, right? You used that muscle last week. If you hold your hand out and you see the shadow of your hand, that's a representative of your hand. That's right. It's like your hand.
Exactly.
So you can, if you see the shadow of a cup or whatever, you get the idea of what it is.
Correct. That's right.
The shadow reveals certain things that you could possibly figure out.
Right. So
yeah.
So it gives you some indication that it's not the thing. It's nowhere near at all what the shadow is nowhere near what the hand is at all. The hand has an ability to pick something up. The shadow has no ability to pick something up. Right. The hand is something physical. The shadow is something which is non-physical. Right. So there is a correspondence. There's a correspondence between the shadow and the hand itself, right? And there's some type of a semblance of the shadow to the hand, right? But it doesn't say that the shadow, and it could even say the shadow is some type of a representation of the hand itself, right? And it's like you could the maximum you can say right? By Adam, that's Tselem, that Adam, it's like the reverse, meaning we are a physical shadow of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, which is non-physical, right? And is probably more, a shadow probably is more in common with the thing it's a shadow of than what Adam has to do with the corresponding aspects of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. But here we see it's the moose. The moose we can say here, simple physical form. Adam is because all he's saying is that Adam is the most nichbad, he is the most superior of all life forms, or anything created for that matter, right? And ubibina, and in his ability to comprehend. Okay, so let's go to this last final paragraph, and when we'll read this, we'll discuss. He'll actually reinforce what we were just discussing, and then we'll just be prepared then to discuss what we'll probably go into in the next document. Have a chance to prepare it this afternoon, Blina. So let's see, this is the Marcheves HaMishnah LeRabbi Israel Al-Kasher, the Al-Kasher.
V'hinei zeh hatzelem haschimo.
Haskimo, they agree. Haskama, haskimo.
Agreed?
Yes.
Okay, so behold, this image is the agreed hamifarshim, agreed by the meforshim, the sages, she'eno midavar al tzuras haguf, that it's not from the words of the form of body.
Right. Okay, right, like this. This that's referred to as the tselem, haskimo mefarshim. The agreement of the commentaries is she'eino medaber al tzuras haguf. It's not a reference. It's not literally eno medaber. It's not speaking about tzuras haguf. It's not speaking about the form of the body.
Af al tzuras hashechol hasechel, the intellect. V'hadea asher bahem hu ha'adam. So even concerning the form of the intellect and the knowledge that is in them, it is the man, dome le voro. It's similar to the creator.
Right, meaning this it's saying of the tselem, the agreement of the commentaries is it's not speaking about the form of the body. But what is it referring to? Al tzuras haseichel v'hadea. It's talking about the form of his intelligence and his understanding, asher behem, that they have within them, who are Adam, which Adam is doima leboyer, that Adam is similar to his boyre, that just as the Kadosh Baruch Hu has seichel and dea, intelligence and understanding, Adam also has, obviously to a much more limited degree, he also has seichel and dea.
V'zehu ki b'tselem Elokim asa es ha'adam. And this is what I guess is what is meant by the image of God, he made man?
Right, that, when it's referring to, but Ketibat Tselem Elokim Aseh Adam in the, here, he's on, if you want to say that Tselem is referring to the likeness, so if you want to say that it was in the likeness of Hashem, Kadosh Baruch Hu created Adam, he was likened to a Kadosh Baruch Hu in his creation through the ability of his intelligence to function as an ability for his comprehension to function. That's the limit that you can say, the limit of the dimion, the limit of the comparison you can make from Adam to Kadosh Baruch.
Okay, so that seems to be pretty clear. It's purely the intellect and the understanding. There's nothing physical about it.
Right. Correct. So basically what we have here is two basic approaches. I mean, they basically agree. They agree that when we refer to Tselem Elokim, we can't be referring to any physical comparison of the creation of Adam to his creator, Kadosh Baruch Hu. There's no physical correspondence or correlation between Kadosh Baruch Hu and any one of his creations. The only thing is that we had the tshuva of the Rashbats that he explained that the Tselem Elokim is conferred, Adam is conferred with Tselem Elokim because he's the most superior and significant of all the creations. Therefore, he gets a special connotation of being referred to as the Tselem Elokim. And then you have the other Meforshim, which are basically explaining that, again, there can be no physical correlation between a Kadosh Baruch Hu and Adam. Nevertheless, in terms of a seichel and deya, in terms of intelligence and comprehension, there is a dimion, a similarity between Adam and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but only in terms of his ability to use his seichel. Oh, those are the two basic meforshim, two basic drachim in how to understand what it means Tselem Elokim. So I'll see. Well, maybe I'll be preparing another document for later tomorrow and the rest of the week, as of Hashem. We'll see if we'll go further into this subject, or maybe we've actually covered it sufficiently enough to go on to the next point. I'll see that as I go on later on this afternoon. Good. So I guess that actually, if we finish this document, it might be a good time to start.
Ready to take a break?
Yes, I think we'll take a break. That'll be okay with you, Barry? Take a break?
I could go on, actually, if there's more to this Demus. But if we're finished that section, I guess it is a good time.
Yeah, I think
very intriguing. It's very, very intriguing because it explains what we're doing here.
Yeah, that's right. Go ahead. What do you go ahead?
I'm saying if we understand what the whole point of this for me is that we understand what Hashem wants from us.
That's exactly right. That's, if you remember, Rashi's original explanation was, why does the Torah tell us that we've been created with Tselem Elokim? Right? Why is it necessary that it's written specifically in the Torah? So that's what Rabbi Akiva himself, that's the very mishnahs of Rabbi Akiva. Nodas lehem, right? Akiva nodas them. It was made known to them. And Rashi explains it was made known to us that we created the Tselem Elokim because we have to realize the obligations we have that are incumbent upon us because we have been created as the most significant, superior of all creations. And that's a very big job. And Hashem wants us to know that that's our job. And it's not simply for Jews. It starts with B'nai Noach. It starts right there with B'nai Noach, and it continues on even more specifically with more specific obligations for the Jewish people. So that's why it's referenced to us and why we have a special pasuk telling us, and there are a few psukim that tell us that we created B'Tselem Elokim. So we should understand and realize that that's in fact our purpose in life, to come to a intelligent and comprehensible understanding of Kadosh Baruch Hu within the capacities of human intelligence. And that's why we've been given our human intelligence to come to an acknowledgement and realization of the Kadosh Baruch Hu, and to therefore also realize our obligations would stem from that.
Right.
And that's the whole purpose we're here for. So, and that's what makes us superior and significant, to the extent that we realize Kadosh Baruch Hu, and the extent that we realize our obligations to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, and to the extent that we fulfill our obligations to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, that's going to be the extent of our superiority. Okay.
Okay.
Very good. So fine. That's a very good place to stop, and we'll be continuing with
Okay.
Hilchos Purim, right? The sixth volume of the Mishnah Berurah, if you remember, sixth volume of Mishnah Berurah, Hilchos Purim. So we'll take a few minutes break, and we'll be back soon, Mitzvah Shem.
Okay.
Roy should have a good afternoon.